All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the National Disability Employment Awareness Month's live event titled AI for All, which is enhancing accessibility and inclusion. Thank you all so much for being here today. It's going to be a very informative conversation day today. I think a lot of people are going to get a lot out of this conversation, and you're really going to enjoy all the information that's going to be shared. So I'm excited for it. My name is Kristen Blanchard. I am a counselor at the Livonia office. I am actually part of our NDEAM team for Western Wayne here, including Blake McGee, Fatmi El Ali, and Gretchen Chavez. Before we get started, there are a few things that I wanted to just go over, a few important points and tips for everybody. We have muted your microphones and turned off your cameras. That's just for accidental interruptions, so those don't happen, so we can focus on the presentation and the information that's going to be shared. And then closed captioning is available by clicking the Show Captions button in the Zoom webinar at the lower part of your screen. We are going to be using the question and answer feature at the very end of the session. So make sure if you have questions during this presentation, feel free to write in your questions. We will have some questions of our own that we have prepared, but also we want to give you all its amount of time to share your questions. So we will answer those at the very end. So feel free to write those in. I'd like to introduce our two presenters that we have today. Our first presenter is Sarah Douglas, PhD. She is an associate professor and director of the RAD Lab, which is Research in Autism and Development Disabilities at Michigan State University, in the Department of Human Development and Family Studies. Dr. Douglas started her career as a special education teacher for children with disabilities and complex communication needs, and continued on to academia, getting her degree in special education from Penn State University. Her research focuses on autism, developmental disabilities, paraeducators, and interventions and technologies to support school or social and communication skill development for children with autism and developmental disabilities. This includes the use of sensor technologies to measure child social interactions. So she's going to be one of our presenters. And then our second presenter today is going to be Gus Suri, who is a rehabilitation engineer with over 32 years of experience in providing assistive technology products and services to individuals with physical, sensory, and learning disabilities in Michigan. He specializes in the areas of computer access, home automation, communication devices, and ergonomics. He works with a lot of our customers. He received his bachelor's degree in biomedical engineering from Wright State University, and his master's is in rehabilitation engineering from the same university. He worked at the Rehab Institute of Michigan from 92 to 99, and he is actually the founder of Assistive Technology of Michigan. He's dedicated to increasing awareness of and access to assistive technology in the state of Michigan and the country. He has presented at many local, state, and national conferences. We've had some really great conversations, and he's helped a lot of my customers. So thank you, Gus, for being here as well. We are going to have each presenter discuss their programs a little bit, and then we're going to move on to more of a conversational style of a presentation. So this is going to be a lot more interactive than maybe some live events have been. So we're going to start with them explaining their programs. But before we get started, we do want to know a little bit about our audience and who you are so that we can tailor some of our questions to be more active towards the people that are here. So we have a poll for you, if you would not mind taking that poll and just let us know what best describes you so that when our presenters are explaining and answering questions, they can answer it appropriately. Just going to give a few seconds for that to take place. So thank you for doing that. All right, so to get started, Dr. Douglas, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about your program and how AI impacts you?
Excellent. As was mentioned, I started my career as a special education teacher. So I've been well acquainted with different technologies that are frequently used for children with different disabilities, especially those with more complex disabilities. I became pretty interested in these technologies because of that role. But I think it's also important to note that I didn't necessarily think of artificial intelligence when I first started in this work. That wasn't a term until more recently. Most of the work that I would do, I considered under assistive technology. And I think as Gus will talk about later, there's a huge overlap in assistive technology and artificial intelligence, that we use different techniques borrowed from AI to increase and improve the assistive technologies that are available. So I would say I first became really interested kind of in this work sort of naturally through the supports that I was providing to children in my classroom. And then that really sparked my interest into conducting more research. Within my research, I have been able to explore quite a bit in the ways in which we can use these technologies to support, especially children with disabilities, but that can really carry over into adulthood as well. And so I would say in those early experiences, I became more familiar with the types of artificial intelligence that is often built into voice recognition within assistive technology devices such as augmentative and alternative communication. And although I don't have the technical capabilities to necessarily create these systems myself, I do understand and recognize the benefits that they provide to the individuals who are using them. So we know for many people with disabilities that the cognitive and physical efforts that are required to, for example, type out a full message would be very labor intensive, very time intensive, but having things like text recognition, voice recognition, having text prediction can really help speed up that process, make it much more efficient. I would say my most recent exciting introduction into AI is a bit twofold. One, I'm really interested in creating training systems that leverage artificial intelligence to try to help partners learn how to support people with disabilities, especially those with communication challenges. I'm working with some partners in South Africa to try to create some training materials for speech language pathologists who are on the ground there. They get very little instruction, very little support in augmentative and alternative communication. And the expertise just really isn't throughout parts of Africa. There's one central place where that research is being conducted in the whole of Africa. And they are really primarily just training a few speech language pathologists at a time. And so we're looking to create a training system that leverages AI technology to help train them kind of on the job to do that work, because there's just really not the resources to do it any other way at this point. I'm also really interested in AI from the perspective of measuring and supporting children's social and communication development. So I'm working with an engineer here at MSU. His name is Sabir Biswas, and he couldn't be with us today. He has course requirements during these times, but he is a computer engineer. He really focuses on sensing technology, and the technology that we've been using is a sensor technology that's placed in the pocket of a t-shirt for a child and other children in the classroom, as well as teachers. And we can measure the ways in which those children are interacting with other people in their environment. So there's different sensor points that are also on the walls of the classroom, and we can find out in real time where the child is located, who they're moving towards in interactions, who they're moving away from, how long those interactions last, how many interactions they have with different children, the children they spend the most time around, the activities or areas of the classroom that they spend the most time around. And the idea is for us to use this technology to create a monitoring system for teachers to use, especially in early childhood classrooms. Teachers are expected to monitor, anywhere from 15 to 30 children in a small space. And in preschools, especially, one of their jobs is to make sure that children are learning social interaction skills. And when you're doing inclusive practices, this can be especially challenging because you may have several children in the classroom with disabilities who have a lot of different needs, but you may not be able to capture everything that's happening. So we're creating some different technologies using this sensor system that will allow teachers to get real-time alerts of different challenging behaviors that may be occurring in class, children who may be withdrawn and not engaging with other children. If there's not supervision in parts of the classroom by different teachers, that can also be an alert. If a child leaves the classroom through elopement, that can be an alert. And also reports that could be produced to notice patterns of behavior that teachers really wouldn't be able to pick up on by themselves. They just don't have the ability to sit and focus on that one skill, that one thing all day long. But these technologies can really give us the ability to measure these patterns of behavior that we see. So I'm really excited about that. We've already been able to implement this with some children with autism, with children who have some sensory processing disorders, children with ADHD, children with kind of unspecified behavior challenges that are having difficulty engaging in the classroom. And I think most exciting from the teachers that we've talked to is the ability to capture those children who kind of fly under the radar in classrooms. Maybe they don't have behaviors that are externalizing. They have more internalizing behaviors, or they withdraw from social interactions. And we know those children can still be at risk for, some important challenges later in life. If we can teach them those skills, make sure they gain those skills in early childhood, they're going to have much better outcomes long term. So I'm really excited about that technology. And it's hard for me to figure out exactly where it fits. It's not really assistive technology because it's not designed for the individual with a disability necessarily, but it's designed to support the individual with a disability. So I really am excited about that and the promise that it has for the future. So I'm excited to talk to all of you and kind of learn your thoughts about AI. I think it's just important to think about how much AI really already is in our world, and that it's not something to be scared of. It's something to embrace and think of the ways in which we can utilize it to make our jobs easier, to make the lives of individuals with disabilities easier, and to really support all of those with varying abilities in our world.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm excited to get into those questions. All right, Gus, would you mind sharing a little bit about your how AI impacts you day to day with your work?
Sure, absolutely. Hi, everyone. I see that about 75% is Amara's counselor, so you probably have worked with me in the past. And thanks for the introduction. So basically with Assistive Technology of Michigan, what we do is provide assistive technology solutions for people with disabilities, and that's all type of disabilities. And we provide our services through a formal process of assistive technology service delivery process that starts with an assessment where we meet with the individual and assess their abilities and disabilities and their goals and needs, and how we can bridge the gap with the appropriate accommodations. That's the key word here, is the appropriate accommodations. A lot of products in the market that say what it does and it's the best in marketing, but you need somebody to analyze its benefits and how it can fit specific individuals. So if you're familiar with ATM, or Assistive Technology of Michigan, you know that we also have the ability to procure equipment, sometimes from different countries. And the next step would be to do the installation, training, customization of products if we need to, creating custom macros, etc. And then we do all of that at the individual's environment. So would it be at the work site, or if they're working from home, or in their community. Last step would be to do a follow-up evaluation. 2-3 weeks after the last training session, we call the individual to make sure everything is still working as it's supposed to, and if we need to go back and provide additional services. So that's in a nutshell how Assistive Technology of Michigan provide services to all people with disabilities, and as Kristen mentioned, for people with physically challenged, visually impaired, and also learning disabilities. So I know that everybody is thinking about, well, what is AI? I mean, is it, first we thought it's just Chat GTP. You can go to that site, register, ask it, can you help me to write a proposal, or can you help me write a sermon, or write me a professional email to my supervisor, and it will spit that report. I mean, but what is it? What is it actually? Um, so basically, AI is a set of technologies that will enable machines. It will enable a computer system. So it could be a software program that can mimic human intelligence. It can see pictures and understand pictures. It can go through a huge amount of data and be able to analyze and learn patterns from all these numbers of data, and then help us to solve problems. So it could be a software, embedded software in a piece of hardware, etc. I mean, I used AI in assistive technology um, about more than 10 years ago, and I didn't know that's what it's called. I thought, oh, this is a smart device. For example, I'll give you an example. Used voice recognition for years and years. And one of the features is when you dictate an address, for example. So you say 1467 Centennial Drive, Canton, Michigan, 48187. As soon as you say that in a natural way, 48187, the zip code, uh, the software, which is called Dragon Naturally Speaking, automatically say, oh, the user is dictating an address. So let me change Michigan to MI. Let me give him a comma, and so on. So that is an artificial intelligence. It's a smart program, and so on and so forth. But in the last couple of years or so, I mean, the term uh, got a lot of more attraction and traction, for the right reasons. It started to explode in a lot of our daily lives. But what we're focusing on today is assistive technology. So you remember the bridging the gap between somebody's residual abilities and their goals and needs, what we're trying to accomplish. I always say that AI in AT, in assistive technology, it shortened that bridge per se. And it's really exciting because we have a lot of examples that we're going to go through, examples of AI start to get into assistive technology. And as we speak, I mean, there's a lot of products that came live in the market, but also are in the process of developing. We'll also talk about some of the difficulties and shortcomings, and where we're heading, and discuss, is it going to be an augmentative kind of technology or a replacement? And that's very, very important to highlight. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk more about it.
All right, thank you guys both so much. I really appreciate it. I know when we had our practice session last week, we got into some really great discussions. And so I'm excited to kind of move into these questions and kind of get your feedback, both of you. You work with similar technologies, but kind of in different realms. So it's interesting how, Sarah, you're really working with students and developing communication helping assist with communication challenges. And then Gus is kind of working, into the a different realm of people getting ready for employment and making those accommodations. So it's really interesting. A lot of the questions that I'm going to ask, they might not apply to both of you, but if you feel free to, answer, if you feel like you have something that applies, feel free. So the first question that we came up with, which we would like you guys both to weigh in on, is how is AI helping students developing the skills necessary for their future? And how do you see the technology used to help them with employability? So obviously we're the labor department, so we're always thinking about employability. So how do you see AI really helping the students developing skills and AI assisting students?
I guess I could start and then I'm sure Gus will have more to add on. I think we were thinking from the very youngest ages, AI allows children to keep pace with their peers, to stay in inclusive settings, to access curriculum at their grade level, even if maybe their reading level is not quite at that grade level. And the use of AI within assistive technology especially really assists with that. I think it's wonderful that today when a child might have to do, say, a search to write a paper about, I'm thinking elementary school. So these examples might be a little bit out of the realm of what you're used to. Polar bears. They picked polar bears as the animal that they want to do research about. And they've read some books that are at their level, but they're looking for some specific facts. They go on the internet, but that internet is not at their reading level. But they can use, text software to read that site to them, still give them the information they need so then they can produce the report in a way that works for their skill level. I think those early experiences really prepare them so well for how they may use different assistive technologies and different AI technologies within those as they move into their employment. So if a text reader is what they're going to need long term, if there's various technologies that they're kind of going to use throughout their life, getting those early experiences in how to use those technologies is really important. I think it also shows others their capabilities. When we don't have assistive technology, we know that the playing field is not even, that some people are going to look like they are more intelligent or outperform other people simply because of maybe a deficit in one or more areas. And I think it allows people to see what's possible for that child when we utilize these technologies from young ages. And when we can carry that over as they're preparing to go into the workforce, I think it just helps us even more to figure out which technologies do we still need to kind of close the gap for these different areas, as Gus had talked about. So that's kind of how I think about it.
I can also give another example of a software program that I've been lately using that has AI in it. It's called Glean software, and it's basically a note-taking app that I can access through a web page or on my phone by downloading the app. And it records the lecture, right? So, but then with a click of a button, I can transcribe all that lecture into text. I can, take notes, if the professor said this is really important, so you can click a button with an important message in it and then be able to add your specific notes. I can migrate the presentation, the slides from the professor into my Glean application. I mean, and the list goes on and on, but there's really a lot of tools nowadays to assist students. Imagine a student who is blind, for example, and using a special screen reader software. One comes to mind, JAWS. It's called JAWS, Job Access for Windows. But and the program basically reads everything on the screen. It's a powerful screen reader. So it reads the text out loud to them. I actually taught myself to use JAWS by turning off the monitor and throwing the mouse behind the monitor. Now I'm blind and I have no choice but to use the keyboard and be able to use hotkeys to maneuver within Windows, write emails and so forth. So I forced myself to learn JAWS hotkeys that way. But AI comes in the picture literally to read pictures. So imagine I'm browsing an internet and the program reads the text. Well, what about the pictures in the pages? If the programmer did not include description of that page or that picture, then the screen reader would not be able to read it out loud and give me a description of the picture. But you can imagine AI is a software that will actually read those pictures and give us the text and the meaning or the description of that picture, and then the screen reader would read it out loud to me. So this is real examples of real life scenarios where students with disabilities can greatly benefit from assistive technology in general, but in specific AI or artificial intelligence within those assistive technology products. So
I love that you brought up the screen reader piece of the images. I think what's great is, you know, as a college professor, I know that my materials should be accessible to any learner that comes in my classroom. I can make adjustments when I learn that they need certain accommodations, but it's much easier just to have things accessible from the get-go. And even though this is my background, I know I don't do a perfect job. What's great is I'm noticing now that different programs such as PowerPoint, when I put an image into the slide, it now has a description of that image. Like that's a beautiful use of AI to make things more accessible for everyone. So when you're talking to employers, you can say, hey, these are the existing tools that are already there. These are going to be essential for this new employee that's coming into your, you know, into your business. You know, make sure that you utilize all of these things that are already there. So instead of having to teach them all of these things, it's almost like just turning features on in a lot of our programs and being aware what those features really allow for other people. Because we just, those of us who don't know, we just don't know, right? We have no idea of what is required, what's needed, and it can seem very overwhelming. But with AI, a lot of this is already built in. We don't have to think so hard or try so hard to make all of this work.
and
Yeah,
AI in general starts to get embedded in our daily products. I'm using an iPhone, and there's a lot of accommodations within the iPhone, including live transcription, by the way. So you can turn that feature on, and you'll be able to see a live transcription of the audio. And the list goes on and on. In my judgment, they're doing a good job with organizing based on disability. If you go to settings, disability, accessibility features, everything is organized based on the disability. And but yeah, it starts to get into to level the playing field and make things more accessible to everyone.
yeah, with there being a big push too for, students to go to college and get that advanced type of degrees, post-secondary. And this might be a good question for you, Sarah, is do you find that colleges, with you working in a college and understanding being a professor, do you find that colleges are, this technology is widely known and it's being utilized in the way that it can be at colleges, or are they kind of trickling into understanding the capabilities? And what do you see for future for college to level the playing field for students that, might not have thought about going to college because of, a learning disability, let's say? Oh, you're on mute. Yeah, you're on mute. I can't hear you. Still can't hear you. Oh, sorry. I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but maybe we can try to work on that and behind the scenes. I don't know if Mike can try to figure out what's going on, but Gus, do you have any insight into that? I know you work with a lot of my college students. I have sent you a lot
Yeah,
of customers. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I've been working closely with a lot of transition cases or students who are transitioning from high school to college, and that's when um, luckily MRS is available to assist in terms of supporting and funding for the various steps of delivering AT, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of the assessment, the procurement of equipment, and the installation and training. But I mean, luckily, we do have a lot of products that will help a lot of students with, like you mentioned, especially with learning disabilities. I have a couple of products that I would like to show. Maybe I can show it right now. But anyway, here's a device. It's portable, look like a pen, and it's called Orcam Read. And so basically it has a camera on the tip and just an activation button. And if I hold a page and just take a picture from a foot away, it will take the picture and start to read everything in the text instantly. And that this is specifically designed for people with learning disabilities. Now they added a lot of artificial intelligence in it where I can talk to it and I can, so imagine if I'm um, in a restaurant and this is a menu and I already ate and everything. I just want to read the dessert. So if I take a picture, it's just going to read the whole page and it's going to tell me everything on the page. But they added artificial intelligence in it where I can talk to it and say, read dessert. Um, another example would be I'm receiving my bill, and I just want to know the dollar amount. I can also ask it that way.
Wow.
So it just takes a picture. And then I can stop it, I can pause and so on. But it also allow me to connect with the Bluetooth ear sets. And so if I'm in a library setting, I don't want to broadcast what I'm reading to everyone around me, and so on. But and they do have also a sister product that it's this small that magnetically attached to glasses. These are fake glasses, obviously, and it's for somebody who's blind, where in the same fashion, if I point at so that's the object recognition or the gesture recognition, and that's part of the artificial intelligence. So the AI is inside this. It doesn't have to connect to the internet to decipher all that. All the database is inside these chips inside the product, but I'll be able to point at anything and it will just take a picture and read it out loud to me. I can have a dollar sign. It will tell me if it's $1, $5, etc. I can train it to Kristen's face, and anytime I pass by Kristen, it's going to tell me Kristen is in front of you. So you can't
Wow.
hide anymore, Kristen.
Oh
So
my gosh, that's incredible.
it will say it out loud. So and all of that is just inside this little device. Again, the only reason why you have to connect it to the Wi-Fi if you want to download the updates to the firmware or the little software inside this called firmware. But otherwise, it does not. You do not have. You can be in the middle of cornfield and be able to read and so on. So. But
Wow.
these are, so this is about, I would say when it first started about 7 years ago. So you can see what I was talking about where AI start to get embedded into assistive technology from that time, but lately start to get a lot more traction. So, um,
Kristen, if you don't mind asking the question again, I'm sorry.
Sure. No, that's okay.
I got the spinning wheel of death, so I couldn't unmute myself because my mouse is like,
Oh no.
but yeah.
Oh no, that's perfectly fine. So with you working with, being a professor, working in college, do you find that maybe not just the place that you work, your employer, but that colleges are kind of more understanding of this technology? Is it a widely known up and coming technology that schools are trying to implement more regularly? And what does that look like, I guess?
So I think AI has changed the way that college professors think about their instruction, but also their assessments.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of ways to work the system through AI and kind of move through coursework, regardless of, your needs, a lot more without a lot of thinking using AI. So I think initially a lot of professors were very hesitant. They just wanted to put straight up bans on AI. But I'll tell you that employers are really looking for people who are willing to embrace this technology, use it to benefit them. I don't think it's a bad thing for a teacher, for example, who's going through school to use AI to support her in creating a lesson plan. I think that's a really important tool that they could use to make themselves work smarter, not harder, right? So I think that when professors are willing to embrace this kind of technology, it can actually help their students learn how to operate in the world today. Now, I think where it becomes tricky is when we're talking about assessments. And is this genuinely what you know? Is it the AI spitting something out? And there are ways for us to sort of detect that. We have different softwares as professors that can kind of say there's like an AI alert on this. This is something that we think AI created, and there's ways for them to kind of identify that, but there's often not ways for us to prove that as an instructor. And so it's not as though you can tell a student, oh, you failed this because we think you used AI. It's not that simple. It's more about bringing a student in and saying, hey, this got flagged for AI. I don't know if you used AI or not, but here's why I think you should, approach the course in this way. I think what is nice, thinking from an accessibility standpoint, is just all the different benefits that AI could have. In college, as opposed to when you're in high school or elementary or junior high, your accommodations, your modifications come through your IEP. And those are worked through the system. Teachers help identify you, parents can advocate for you. You become part of that process as you age up. But once you get to college, there's no guarantee of any of those supports. You have to be your own advocate. And so I think it's really important, beyond like just thinking about, all these cool tools, that we teach young adults and emerging adults to be ready to say, hey, this is what I need to learn, and this is how I can get access to that, and knowing how to navigate the systems when they're going to get employed, when they're going to go to college, when they're taking courses at technical schools, whatever it might be, how to navigate those services and supports. And there are lots of really cool programs that are trying to bridge the gap between what we have for kind of transition services into either college or other workplaces. I know the Stride Center here at Michigan State University is working to do a lot of that. I know there's several different programs. Spartan Search is one of them, where they take individuals in their last year of high school that are working on transition programs, and they come and find them match employment here at MSU, teach them different job skills, and many of them have been hired in those positions or similar positions after that year. So it's kind of like a training year. But these are programs that are, I think, somewhat isolated in nature. I think that one actually carried over into the state of Michigan as well. But I think it gives employers an opportunity, and especially those big employers, an opportunity to see what's possible, to show them how people with disabilities, what that might look like for employment, and having that kind of internship year to say, oh, this isn't as hard as I thought it would be, or these are really, really reasonable things that we can do, or you know what, this is not a good match, but I can see how I could do this in the future with someone else. I think all of those are potential outcomes, and also giving the individuals themselves the ability to see themselves as employable in the future. That might be a really big stretch. The programs even provide things like learning how to take public transportation so they can get to and from jobs. There's lots of like embedded pieces that are designed to help with that. And, AI can be a piece of all of that. AI can be used to figure out on Google Maps, how do I get from my place right now to my place of employment by this time frame? Is that possible, right? We didn't have all of those tools previously, and a lot of them are just things that everyone uses, but now they're just so much more valuable because people with disabilities have kind of always needed them in some capacity.
Yeah, and I know that in our role with 75% of the people on the call MRS employees, one way that I've used AI for my vocational rehabilitation is sometimes if you have a student that likes so many different career paths, like they're very artistic, they're very compassionate, they're empathetic, they like finance, but they also like, lots of different subjects that they're studying in high school. I have utilized ChatGPT before to type in all the different interests that the student has, and then actually ask the program, what are some types of career choices as well as colleges or programs of study that they can actually that they might find interesting. And it's kind of a good segue into a conversation of deeper, to study those different programs and look for programs in the area that they might be interested in. So it's really, really cool to how AI is really, making its way through all different facets of a person's life, really from beginning to education when they're young, all the way into adulthood and into employability. So, one of the other questions that we have listed here is, can you share examples of AI tools that have successfully assisted your students? I know, Gus, you kind of already touched on the OrCam Read and everything, but Sarah, did you have any specific AI tools that you found have been successful with your students?
I mean, the biggest I think I would say is just augmentative and alternative communication.
Okay.
This is a game changer. And the versions that I had when I was in the classroom, between 2003 and 2008 are so vastly different from what is available today and what we have access to. When I was first teaching in the classroom, we didn't even have like iPads or apps. That's like something that came after that point. I mean, I think they were probably starting to emerge, but they weren't widespread. And now we have communication apps that can be on my phone, can be on their mom's phone, can be on an iPad, even shared apps that can go across different devices. So they don't have to necessarily always have that device on hand or be backed up onto another device. I think the new technologies and the ways that we're thinking about AI for augmentative and alternative communication specifically are very exciting. And I recently went to a think tank specifically about AAC. And one of the points of this think tank is for researchers and leaders in the area of AAC to meet up with people who use AAC. And so we heard from them directly to say, here's what we think needs to happen next in the field. Here's what we're excited about. And overwhelmingly, they were all extremely excited about AI. And I don't know that I really thought about it, but I didn't expect it. I thought maybe there would be some wariness about, would my thoughts genuinely be representative if I'm using AI tools? And all of them were saying, look, this is a really difficult, challenging, lengthy process for us. We want to communicate just as quickly as everyone else is. We want to be in those conversations. And utilizing different AI approaches can do that. We have technologies today that can use what's happening in your brain and produce that into speech, to text, to voice output. I think that's a long way from being utilized, mainstream. And to me, that's scary because I already don't have much of a filter. So it'd be really scary to remove I'm like, how do you really know what's supposed to stay in my head and what I actually want to come out of my mouth? That seems a little risky to me. We all have inner thoughts that we don't necessarily want to share with everyone in the room. But people who have disabilities are saying, we're excited. We don't care. Maybe we want our inner thoughts just to be broadcast for once, and the technologies are constantly evolving to avoid challenges like that we might worry about. I think that to me is really, really exciting. We're about to launch a study, and we have a child who's using eye gaze in her system. She's quite young still, but she's using it really, really effectively. And she's so frustrated because her device is just slow. And so it's exciting to say, hey, there's a new technology. And then to be like, oh, and it has all these things too. Let's get that for you and help you be an even stronger communicator. Let's get you the very best, latest, most wonderful technology to make that happen. And so I think that's a really rewarding and exciting piece of this work. And I think anyone who's in this field would recognize that when people don't have a voice, they're very limited in articulating how they want their life to go and having those, ability to be self-determined, to be a self-advocate. And so it's not just about being able to say what you think to other people, it's also being able to have control over what happens in your life. So I think that to me is such a powerful way to use AI just to do great things.
That's a great example.
Never thought about that before. Wow.
It's a great example of in terms of the AAC or SGDs, speech generating devices, is not just the synthesis, but also the access. Most often people with speech impairments, they would have physical disability, and not everybody can touch the screen. So eye gaze systems, they use software to recognize the pupil and or track the pupil, on the X and Y, and fool the system as if you're using a regular mouse, but you're using your eye to control it. Same fashion, there is another software, it's called Smiley Mouse. So basically, the camera in your monitor looks at your eye and the mouth, and basically track that distance between them and control the mouse that way. And if you smile, it will actually do the click, and so on. But and that uses artificial intelligence in their application. So it's from access to speech generating to etc. Um, Another example I want to bring is that the AI is very tangible in this product. It's a product called, it's a smart cane product called WeWalk, and it's just like a regular cane, as I mentioned, but it has a lot of AI, and the latest model, they included a lot of features that uses GPS system. You can talk to your cane and say, okay, give you know closest coffee shops around me and take me there, and I'll give you step-by-step instructions where to make a right and left and so on. And then you walk in and say, read menu, so it will tell you the menu inside that coffee shop, etc.
Oh,
So that's another example of exciting AI coming near you. So I also want to mention about the worries about AI replacing or taking away jobs. Um, I thought about an example that can be illustrated. So a software program can scan a lot of data in terms of legal documents, for example, or legal contracts, and it can teach itself, okay, here's a pattern. If you see these words or whatever, replace it with that, and so, and can make a suggestion. So technically, if I have a contract, instead of calling my lawyer and charge me $500 to review, I can ask the AI to review it and then give me the instructions. But that's not how it works. The AI will actually be used by the lawyer to support and enhance and make him more or her more efficient in making that conclusion. I still need the lawyer to discuss and analyze further. So that's how I think about it. And that's just one example. The list goes on and on. We all know when we call and customer service and an AI comes along, I think most of us keep pushing the zero button, trying to talk to a
yes.
but sometimes it works, but sometimes you really have to talk to somebody because I really want to explain myself.
Mhm.
So so it's there to augment, enhance, make us more efficient, um, uh, but not necessarily to take away the radiologist's job, for example. So I just want to mention that because I know everybody's thinking about that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Blake, do we have any questions in the Q&A? I just want to make sure people have time if there are any available. If not, I have some more questions that I could ask. We don't have a ton of time left, but
Current, cur- yep, currently we do not have any questions in the forum.
okay, thank you. So I think to wrap up, we have about 10 minutes left. The question that I think will kind of wrap all this up together is really the future developments in AI. Do you think what future developments in AI do you think will revolutionize the way individual disabilities participate in the workforce? So how does it translate to the workforce, and how is it going to revolutionize things?
Oh, I can take that. I mean, like we've been talking about efficiency, I think it's gonna help help everyone in general, but specifically for people with disabilities to be more efficient. There is a lot of work to be done. For example, I call it design bias. So, and I'll give you an example of Alexa device. You can say, hey, Alexa, turn my lights on and so on. But that's assuming I don't have a speech impairment or dysarthria. Why not develop a feature where the user will select slight dysarthria, moderate dysarthria, and then give the device samples of your voice in which Alexa will understand you better and be able to provide that equal access to that artificial intelligence in the product. So there is some work to be done. Also inclusive data. We talked about AI is excellent in scanning and understanding and reading a huge amount of data. And then make a decision. So that's assuming data in is good. If data in is bad, data out is bad, or decision is bad. So if there is no data in with that has people with disabilities in it, then you're going to have a skewed data out. So that's another area that I think that we need to work on, or researchers need to work on, and to enhance assistive technology products with AI. And of course, the cost. I mean, Elon Musk just came up with a robot for $16,000 that can talk to you and help you vacuum and cook for you and all that. But it's
Yay!
$16,000.
Finally, look, Rosie from the Jetsons. I've been waiting for her.
So it is here. Star
Yeah.
Trek, no more. It's here. So, but so cost is another thing
Yeah.
that we have to work on.
Yeah,
But
that's a good point. I think employers, when you're trying to not only hire somebody and meet those salary requirements, but also then thinking about the technology, if it's very expensive, might not be as, utilized as it could be. So that's a really good point, Gus. How do we get it to the point from, like, I think you had mentioned when we talked last week that the more well-known things become, the cheaper they become. And you might have said that, Sarah, one of you did. And that's really interesting because as you educate, then, technology changes and it becomes more accessible and then the price comes down. Therefore, it's more, user availability. So that's really interesting.
yeah, if a product was designed specifically for people with disabilities, it's usually expensive because it's limited market.
Mhm.
But if it's a product designed for everyone, and then people with disabilities say, aha, I can use Alexa to control the deadbolt, open the door, see who's knocking. I can actually control my bed. If somebody is a quadriplegic, hey, Alexa, head up one, and the head of the bed goes up. So I can control that. Lights, appliances, phone calls, what's on my calendar today for somebody with traumatic brain injury. I can program it where in the morning you walk across Alexa and it will say, hey, Jonathan, you have Gus today at 2:00 automatically. So it's real life scenarios that can help a lot of people with disabilities. But yeah, it's if a device is produced for the mass market, then the price is low and then people with disabilities could benefit from it. It's just like having cell phone. I don't want to say her name because she's going to turn on, but hey, Siri, call mom on speaker, completely hands. That's what I was talking about.
Mom is joining the call.
And the phone is off, but I don't
Oh
know.
my
She's
God.
still alive. But
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, it's 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 I mean, you can get a used good iPhone, $700-600, which is reasonable. So
I think what's cool too is sometimes we create tools and technologies for people with disabilities, and then they get uptake. Like the uptake comes because we realize, oh, this is really cool. I mean, I think that's how voice recognition became a thing first. It was used because people with disabilities really needed it. And then others are like, oh, we could really leverage this. And
Right.
then suddenly it becomes less expensive. I think what's still needed is, you know, just a lot of research to be done to figure out what technologies and adjustments need to be made. Like you mentioned before, the technology, the AI is only going to be as good as what we put into it. And so that machine learning process, that process to get it right, we have a lot of really smart people creating technologies, but they may not have the real life experience or the understanding of, say, people with disabilities or of, you know, children with autism or whatever it might be that this tool is really useful for.
Mhm.
And so our creation of whatever's going to work might be a little off at the beginning. But if we can get the right people into the conversation from early on, we can make tools that are going to be much more useful, much broader benefits for a larger group of individuals. You know, Elon is like, hey, let's, you know, create this robot that can vacuum. But there are robots that can vacuum, but maybe this robot's just that much better. It can do all these other things too, right?
Right.
I'm sure he has a team of people who he goes to say, hey, what are the things that are annoying to people right now that we could make easier through our technologies? He doesn't just, you know, come up with, oh, I have this technology, let's just put it here, here, and here. He's
Yeah.
figuring out where it might be most useful. So, and even, you know, like with automated cars, I have a Tesla. It's kind of exciting. I do not like the self-driving feature. I like to be in control. But that self-driving feature could mean a lot of freedom in the future for people with disabilities to have their own vehicles, but not necessarily have to drive if that's not something that they can do physically, but still have a car when we all have self-driving cars, which will likely happen in the future.
Mhm.
Much safer. Someone with a disability could still use a car and not have to rely, for example, on public transportation, which has a whole host of challenges.
Yeah.
There's a lot of potential, but I think we still have work to do and advocacy to do to make sure that that potential is reached.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, we're almost out of time, but I wanted to thank you both so much. You both have so much insight into this this field and this industry, and I just want to thank you both so much for being passionate about it and taking your time today and also last week to share your thoughts and all your expertise in this field. So we really, really appreciate you. Thank you for everybody for attending. I hope it was informative. I hope it was informational. And obviously, if you have any questions or you want to reach either of these individuals, I'd be more than happy to share their information. You know, Gus does work a lot with evaluations and providing assistive technology to MRS customers. So he's always reachable for referrals and things like that. So thank you both so much. And
You're welcome.
again, thank you guys for attending. So you all have a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time.